Okay, just basically want to get some things out about my relationship with Donyale. I think I met her maybe. Uh, I know she worked for Best Communication whenever I first came down to New Orleans, like in '91. 2 years, I had my beeper service through them, Crescent City Communication, and she would always say my name, my whole name, whenever she saw me come in. Never really took much notice to her until, like I said, 2 years later, we decided to talk. I was talking about her son's radio, and she asked me to come out to a pool party with her. Honestly, she was a beautiful woman, had a awesome shape, so I kind of wondered, or I thought I'd get to see her in a bathing suit. So that was the lust, I guess, part of everything. So I think she lived on Genoise at the time. So I went, picked her up. I had a van. My dad had just bought me a Econoline van, and I was just like, "Hey, I hope you're not embarrassed, but this is what I got." She was like, "Cool," you know. So we went to that pool party, which was her sister's, Mook's, and we played spades together. Uh, we were like a team, undefeatable. So we had some sparks that happened at her spot before we went to the pool party. I kissed her, and things got heated. But she told me she was on administration. So I just remember like that Thursday, she came to my house. She bought me like a plate of food, bought some champagne, bought some strawberries, whipped cream and stuff, and she fed me and you know then told me open my hand, give me a gift. So I was like, okay. So basically, she put her underwear in my hand. And so I started thinking, put two and two together. I'm like, do you have any underwear on, girl? you know, and like I said, honestly, I was flattered. I was just like, man, she was all that to me at first. Uh, honestly, until I saw her naked, stomach from whatever she had trade was, I'd never seen anything like that before, stretched out, um, and basically didn't go back to the way it was, I guess, whenever she was younger. So that was kind of a letdown because I always, like, one of my things was a woman with a six pack is so sexy. So basically, that was kind of like, eh, I'll deal with it. She's just a friend. So nothing serious. I was actually married at the time. So after a while, we got hot and heavy. You know, I was actually separated from my wife for like a year and a half. I tried to work and get back with her, but just never resolved the issues. She had issues of kicking me out whenever she got mad at me for something that I don't know. She just had her mad days, and she's like when she's mad, she didn't care. Um, so I'd always had issues with her really being a true friend. So after that, I went to Germany because my ex-wife, had gotten pregnant after basic training. Um, and honestly, me and Danielle had kind of broken off after I told her I was married. I remember sitting outside of her house begging her to let me in. Let's talk about this or whatever. But I sat outside on Genoise just for hours on end. But she never conceded, never, opened the door. So everything was over with at that point. But my ex-wife had came back to me and she told me basically she had joined the Air Force and wanted to take me with her. She wanted us to, in a sense, basically start anew. So she asked me where I wanted to be stationed. Uh, where I wanted to go, and I took German in high school, so I picked Germany, and ended up she got stationed there. Her first duty station was in Germany. So after we were separated through her basic training, and I kept her car, and I had my van. Donyale actually used to use my van uh, at times, which I thought was cool because she was humble to drive that van, you know, uh, and I was just really amazed that she could drive it, a little woman like that, not being afraid, being able to face her fears, or basically having no fear of driving something that big, because it was kind of a wide load. So, like I said, we had broken off at one point, but then she got stranded in it was an outlet store outside of Baton Rouge. So just I had moved on, and actually I had another friend relationship that was going on, and she just called me, told me her situation, that her and Trey were stranded, and could I come pick her up? So I'm a friend, no matter what. So just okay, I'll be there. I mean, how long? It's 50 minutes. I'll be there. 50 minutes. All right. So ended up, like I said, I was in a relationship with Keisha Nyoko, and I told her to come along with me. So whenever I get there, Donyale and Trey, Donyale kind of caught an attitude. She was mad that I had another woman with me. So, but what I did was I dropped Keisha off at my apartment. Then I went and I dropped Donyale off. We talked a little bit, but then actually I had to jump on the road to go pick up my wife, LaTanya, who was in Biloxi at the time during her tech school. So I had a lot of stuff going on. It seemed like whenever I went to New Orleans, I always had like three women all the time, for the most part. But like I said, I kind of went to New Orleans to sow my wild oats, to grow out of some things, uh, become a man, not being led by lust or whatever. I'm basically, I don't hit on women. I basically, you got to be a friend, and then if I see certain qualities that are good, then we could develop a friendship. So from there, like I said, I went to Germany, had some issues over there. Every now and then I call Danielle because she kind of like seemed to be a friend, and she would console me and so forth. And honestly, I missed her because I was really only in Germany for my kid, because me and my ex-wife, she was just evil. Tanya Clark, she was just, certain stuff that she did is just heartless, and it ended up with her kicking me out, uh, really lying, about a situation that happened where she slapped me and I slapped her back. She denied that she slapped me, but told the people I slapped her, and we got into counseling. And while she was pregnant and so forth, she was very moody, a biatch, really. So we had to go to therapy. During therapy, the therapist told us that we kind of had our roles reversed. I was more like a woman, open and forthcoming, whereas she was closed and, kind of had some issues that she wasn't trying to work through, you know. So I found out that that was going to hurt her military career because all that was going to be in a file that any and everybody could open up. So I suggested we go to a therapist on the economy, which would make it private. So in that situation, it made me look like I refused therapy. So later on, after my daughter was born, our relationship kind of changed. It got better, you know, and love really started showing up. And she ended up getting pregnant again. She didn't know it. We had an incident one morning after I had my ACL surgery. In a sense, we used to sleep in separate bedrooms. Uh, and she'd bring my daughter into the bedroom that I slept in and leave for work, you know. So that morning, she brings Shelby in, lay her by my side, and Then it just so happened I decided to go ahead and get up. I go to the sink, wash my face. I noticed my wife had, all this makeup on. We had already discussed that, agreed, because I feel like it's a low self-esteem. I'm just like, what's going on? I thought we, discussed this and agreed to it. She lashed out. She hit me. I stopped. It's like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I counted to 10. Calm myself down. Okay, I'm not gonna be trying to provoke me. What's going on? Are we gonna talk about this? No, you're not the boss of me. You're not my daddy. This and that. So she kicked me in my knee, which I just had ACL surgery in. So I kind of got pissed and grabbed her and I threw her into the couch. Then I went and grabbed her and I drug her to the bathroom and I washed off all the makeup, And I was like, now you gotta go to work. You think you want to play with me, you know, that's whatever you're trying to pull, which she had a lieutenant that she had a crush on. Obviously, I could see it. So, in a sense, I didn't know, if anything had happened between them. Um, so I don't know. I just never indulged in that. But the end result is she called them, told them she wasn't coming to work. They found out why and this and that. She lied again, and basically from that point on, I had a job, a government job. I was an electronic tech, and after I passed probation, basically it was like a GS job. I would have been in the system and been able to relocate anywhere in the nation, wherever I wanted to, and it's job security. So certain stuff she didn't understand, uh, didn't even care about, as far as concern of our daughter's livelihood or her welfare, well-being. It was just, you know, um, self-centered. For some reason, I always get self-centered women because I don't have no problem in giving. I'm not a self-centered person. I'm very caring, very, very giving. So at that point, um, she had me fired from my job. She got me barred from Germany because I went and I hired a lawyer for to get custody because I couldn't leave the nation with Shelby without custody papers. So I got an understanding of that. So I want to say January 13th. It was a Friday the 13th, and they came. They brought me paperwork that talked about a flight leaving out of Frankfurt, Germany, that I was supposed to catch. So I had had my daughter like that whole week or whatever, and my daughter had gotten sick because of they went and they kidnapped her out of the daycare just to keep her away from me, which I never tried to control my daughter. I figured like having both parents in her life is the best thing for her, and I tried to get Tanya to agree to you know joint custody, but she was just like, let the courts decide. We're gonna let the courts decide. So uh, the end result is, like I said, I hired a lawyer who was in cahoots with her lawyer, who on that same morning, Friday the 13th, I went before the judge and lied and said that I was at Frankfurt Airport trying to leave with my daughter, which automatically, the judge, that's breaking the laws, so they gave her temporary custody. So from that, the military had her sign papers that barred me from any military uh, facility in Germany. So I was trying to get my work visa so I could stay near my daughter. I had a savings bonds, and all my money basically I was making was going to our daughter because we didn't have no expenses. So she killed all of that. I ended up coming back to Shreveport. They sent me to Shreveport. I was pissed because I left from New Orleans, sent me back to New Orleans. But she sent me to my mom's. So I was still recovering from my surgery, lost, depressed, going through some issues. And just happened to meet Donyale in Shreveport at the Walmart. Uh, we kind of rekindle things and so forth. I tell her about my situation, and she tells me I can come and live with her in New Orleans. So I explained to her, I'm like, you got to be my friend. Friends first. I know you love me and this and that, or you care for me. but you got to be a friend. So she agreed, understood. Me and my mom got into it. My mom slapped me. I snapped, packed all my shit, cussed her out, went to the bus station, hopped on the Greyhound bus because my brother worked for Greyhound at the time, and went to New Orleans. Called Donyale whenever I think we stopped in uh, Alexandria. So she was like, okay, I got a couple of things I got to work out. She actually had a boyfriend or whatever. And she was gonna have to break it off with him. So basically, like for a month or two, I think. I remember hiding out of the house. I couldn't answer the phone because of him. And here she still was in another relationship that she hadn't broken off yet. So I'm living there, friends with benefits, and so I never really kind of cared about anything like that because, like I said, I'm not a self-centered person. I'm not uh, lacking in confidence and so forth. So me and Trey basically bonded. He used to pee in the bed, so I used to pee in the bed too. So I would talk to him, understand, try to do this, try to be mindful of that. You know, get his mattress up every morning, put it out to air dry. Whenever we go to sleep, I read him a book. And actually got him into to reading. They loved the way I read because I would make more or less I would make it sound interesting. Uh, so even Danielle used to like to sit down and listen to me read. So at one point she came. We was like on Iberville. She told me that things weren't working out, and basically we need to go our separate ways. And right after that, the house next to us got broken in like twice in a weekend or something like that. So I was just like, okay, just to repay, be a friend, repay your kindness. We moved into an apartment out in Metairie together, Fox Run. So she got the apartment under her aunt's name and so forth because she had issues with her name, and I think I had something on my record because of leaving my apartment to go to Germany prior to completing the lease that I had. So we moved out there, Metairie. I want to say I was working for MCC at first, then I started working for Avondale, um, and then after I went to Avondale, basically I tested to be a first class electronics tech, but Bob Terry made me third class because he was saying about lack of experience. So initially I was like, okay, and the foreman, he put me under a black foreman, um, and he taught me everything. He taught me so much stuff. I remember doing like fire alarm system on Bob Hope fleet, and it ended up being that I was over it. I was a third class, and basically I was working first class electronics and electricians that were making more than me. So they put me in for a raise. The raise got denied by Bob Terry, and basically he told me that the only way I'll get my raise is I got to leave and come back. I got to, basically make an issue of it. So that's what I did. So in between all of that, I had an invention, my throat wrap. I was submitting to, it was 97. I submitted to Universal Consulting Agency. They loved the idea. They came back, told me it was like a 85 to 90% success. And, but the thing was, there was two stages. The first stage would take like $12,000, and the second stage would take like 20,000. But here, the patent only costs like $350 or something like that I looked up. So it's kind of reached out to family members, got discouraged because I'm like, here, the white people would invest in me, give me a full scholarship to go to college, but my own people won't invest in me, and so was going through all kind of issues. Then basically Danielle came up pregnant. So I remember one morning she told me, and at the time she had a pager business, Best Communications. I suggested her the name and so forth, and we were doing all right. The thing was, she wasn't paying her taxes, so the partners in it decided to liquidate. So all this just happened at the same time, and just bad timing. And she basically didn't deal with it well. And like I said, the morning I was going to Avondale, and it was crossing the UEP, I remember. And I told her basically I didn't want to have a child with her. I was like, as far as things I'm going through with Tanya and Shelby, I got trust issues. I don't trust you. I don't think I know you well enough to have a child with you. And I really would like for you to have an abortion. She got upset. Um, like I said, after that, I went to a different job, Red Fox, and I was working like a Saturday. Went to work that Saturday, come home uh, that evening. Donyale had packed and moved out. It was gone. So it's like, okay, cool. So that's whenever I got in a relationship with Connie. I used to work out at French Riviera, and basically she used to hit on me and stuff like that. So I told her my situation, but once Donyale moved out, we decided to kick it, have a relationship. I was working at Whispers as well. Um, I remember like sometimes I go before I go to work, I stop by, I talk to Connie because she lived a little bit ways from the club. So after that, I remember my son being born. She called me like when he was 9 months. She was, 9 months, and all right, we need items for the kids. So I took her to Toys R Us, bought a baby bed, bought all kind of stuff, blankets, amenities and so forth. We had a situation with the blanket. She wanted a different one. I was just like, okay, as far as newborns, their eyes are better with black and white in certain shapes. It helps them, uh, their eye strength or whatever, develop. Because I went through certain things with Shelby, trying to make sure as a preemie she was 2 months premature. She didn't have any adverse reactions or learning disabilities and so forth. So we had disagreement about the blanket, but she went on, let me buy the blanket that I recommended, and we went forward. And I think I want to say I was giving her like $400 a month at least for Hunter. She ended up having Hunter. I went to the hospital, Turo, and while he was born and so forth. So after that, I think I moved to uh, Wickfield. I had me a house, and Donyale called me up. I had some black and white film that I wanted to take some pictures of Hunter. Me and Connie were involved, and Donyale had already kind of went and talked to Connie, when she found out that we were in a relationship, telling her, oh, I'm pregnant for him, and this and that. Connie was like, I don't care, I know the situation. So um, at that point, like I said, Donyale came to the house to let me see Hunter. Uh, Second time she came, I want to say Thanksgiving was coming up, and I told her I wanted to take Hunter to see my mom because Shelby, I wasn't able to take Shelby to see my mom. So she made a big stank of it and ended up going in my kitchen, pulling a knife on me. I had my TV on had a brand new TV I just bought, and I had it on like a keyboard stand. She turned the TV over, tore it up, like I said, grabbed a knife, pulled it on me, threatened to kill me or whatever with it and so forth. So what I did was I hopped in my car uh, and drove to Shreveport with Hunter. Before I got out of New Orleans, I went to the East, bought him a car seat, and so forth, and had him with me. I was like, all right, in Germany, actually I had a recommendation that possession is 9/10 of the law. You take your kid and run and keep it, that's your right, as a parent. And basically, they can't do anything about it. So while I was in Shreveport, she called my mom crying and all this. I just basically wouldn't talk to her. So eventually, my mom had me talk to her. So um, it just so happened I got a call from the new company I was working for. They wanted me to go to Pascagoula to work. So my brother was going through some issues. He had just had a car wreck. And my dad was telling me about, him paying for this car, and this wife they got for him and his wife, and how he had purposely probably wrecked it. So I'm like, okay, you need money, you need to repay dad what he, put out. I can get you a job. Let me call my people. I'm gonna get you $18 an hour, all right? And you come with me. It's like, all right, cool. So I ended up taking him to Pascagoula, and I agreed to take Hunter back to Donyale. So I took him back en route to Pascagoula, dropped him off, and like I said, I was giving Donyale like $400 a month. It came to a point where one day I took Hunter to like Oshkosh, Bigosh, or something like that. Bought him a whole mess of clothes um, above what I was giving her, outside of what I was giving her. So basically, she took my clothes that I bought him, took it back, got the money, and did whatever she wanted with it. So we had an issue with that. So I'm like, okay, check this out. Whatever I buy my son, it's gonna be at my place. I'm not gonna give you nothing because you're not being respectful and certain stuff that you're basically, like I said, it's just full disrespect. So from there, I went making a video.
My bad. I was worried, a little worried. My bad. Look, lunch is going on.
Oh, I got food. I'm good.
All right, so I'll tell them not to make a plate for you.
Oh, I'll come get that because you signed my name on the list.
Yeah, I signed your name on the list, but you're here. You ain't supposed to be.
Okay. All right. Either or.
I'm gonna let you have this one.
Right.
I'm gonna let you have this one.
All right. Cool.
All right.
All right. So from there, she ended up putting like say custody. She tried to put me on child support. So they at the time I had two different situations because I want to say Tanya was back in the States. She was in New Mexico. I had went out to New Mexico to see her. She had asked me back because we were still married, but I was just like, no, I can't trust you. I love you, but I can't trust you. I'm not gonna live under any other roof that you are providing because you didn't put me out 3 different times already. I'm not gonna play the fool a 4th time. 3 strikes and you're out with me. So she got mad. Lawyer told her she can get alimony because we had been married 8 years or something like that. She filed for it. Filed for so much amount of custody. I was like, okay, you want that? You do it. All right. I hope you get this out your system. So that we can really be adults with our child. Get this shit over with. Do what you figure like it's gonna help you resolve any issues you still got with our relationship failing, which was your fault. So from that, I said, Donyale went. She put me on child support too. So I ended up filing for joint custody. So we go before the court in Jefferson Parish to the courthouse for joint custody. Her lawyer or whatever, somebody, they had me arrested before I go before the judge. And basically, I'm not able to go before the judge because of back owed child support. And they give her custody or something. I don't know really what happened because I find she lies. So I don't really know. She told me they gave her sole custody. They filed me abandonment. I'm like, how the hell when I was there at the courtroom? I signed in, made sure they understood that I was there, before they took me off in handcuffs. That's some bullshit. And the other thing was I paid a lawyer who didn't show up. So I was pissed at him because that's the second lawyer that fucked me. I'm like, I paid you money and here you're gonna hang me out to dry. You don't even show up to the court to represent me, when I basically was taken to jail. That's some bullshit, So from there, he said, we went on. I basically never paid child support. I'm like, fuck y'all, They had me before the judge. Judge was a female. She threatened to take my license, and actually she did take my license. And basically I was in defiant the whole time, and they had a public defender there that was kind of he was trying to tell me chill out or whatever, but I'm like, nah, dude, this woman only has the power that I give her, and I'm not giving you no power over me and my family. Like, it's not right. I'm not unfit or anything. Basically her filing for child support saying that she's put my child in a dangerous situation where she has admitted to the courts that she's incapable, of properly taking care of him. So that's an admission that she's, has recklessly endangered my son in a sense. I know my rights. I fought my country. I served 10 years, Army National Guard, went through Desert Storm. I'm going to stand for my rights. Freaking fuck that court. Y'all can do whatever the fuck y'all want, but, you only had a power that I allow you to have for the most part. I'm a citizen. You're a public servant. So that's always been my mindset with anybody, police, judges, so forth. You have an oath that you took, and that you must uphold to. And if you don't adhere to it, there's channels. You know, I'm not gonna go outside of it. I'm not gonna just take any and everything that's thrown at me. So they took my driver's license. I just went to the DMV and got another one, a replacement. So went on by my business, continued, didn't pay child support, like I said. Really didn't have any interactions with Donyale for like, no, what happened? All right, Connie got pregnant for me. And whenever she had Attican, because at first we used to, I keep Hunter and so forth. We interacted, and one time I was keeping him like over the summer, and she was going on vacation, had this new boyfriend. She'd come bring him out there to my house in Destrehan, want to show me him or whatever. So what happened? I guess the vacation didn't go as planned. So they come back, and she wants to take my son before time that we had agreed. So I was just like, no, you can come. I'm not gonna deny you seeing your son, but you ain't gonna take him, you know. So she came out there to Destrehan, made a big stink about it, called the cops, told the cops, lied to the cops, told them I hit her, and had me taken off to jail. But after I explained to the cops that she has to present custody papers for them to act in a civil matter concerning my taking my child away, and they would be liable. Basically, they understood the law, and they told her that we can't do nothing, man. You don't have the paperwork, so you can say whatever you want to say, but I got justice out of that. They took me to jail. We went to court. In court, Connie testified on my behalf, and she lost. And like I said, in a sense, they didn't charge her with filing a false report or anything. Man, I got